Hello, everybody out there. Can somebody let me know that you can hear me okay? Just put a thumbs up or say yes in the chat. Um, Welcome to our workshop tonight. We'll get started here shortly. I am with Elise Durking. Elise is a good friend of mine. She went through the last session of Unreal Collective. Unreal Collective is a 12-week online workshop to reach your next business or project milestone. I'll let Elise give a little bit of a history on Clay Hill's Creative, but she was one of the shining stars in our last cohort, getting everything together. And I'll let her talk a little bit more about that. But Clay Hill's Creative came out of that. She's given me some tips for my home. It's been awesome to see the progress that she's made. And she is the expert on this stuff. So you're not going to hear a whole lot from me throughout the evening. What I will do is I will be facilitating the Q&A, and I'll also be facilitating discussion in the chat. So if you have any questions, enter them into the Ask a Question section at the bottom of the screen, or enter them into the chat. I'll make sure that we address that as Elise goes through her presentation. But if you haven't already, check out the link that I put into the chat. That is just a direct link to the worksheet that Elise will be working through tonight. It's just unrealcollective.com/home. That'll pull up the PDF. You can download that to your computer and walk through it along with her. Again, I'll let her kind of give an overview on how to best use that. But you guys are all here for her and the things that she can teach you. So I will, without further ado, turn it over to Elise.
All right. Getting
Let me mute.
feedback. Okay. So first of all, thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate everyone that's joining in, and so excited to talk to you about everything tonight.
Hey, Elise.
Yeah?
Can you, if Hamza is watching live, that's probably where the feedback is coming from. So maybe mute that microphone. I think it went away. Cool.
All right. Let's try again. Sorry, guys. Let me start by sharing my screen. And let me try one more thing to work on this. Can you hear me okay now?
Still getting that ping.
Is everybody on the call muted?
Yeah. Can you try, do you have any headphones nearby?
Yeah, I have some in my bag. One moment.
Hey guys, while we're waiting, let us know what you are looking forward to or most curious about in the chat or the Ask a Question, because there's a lot that we're going to cover, but want to make sure that we get to everything that you guys are specifically interested in. So again, that's just, there's a spot at the bottom of the screen called Ask a Question. We have one in there already from Rosemary. So Rosemary will make sure that we get to that. But anybody else, feel free to enter that at any point during the conversation. We'll make sure that gets pulled up. Cool. Learning as we go. Aha.
All right. Is that working?
I think so.
Cool. Okay. So sorry about that, guys. All right. Can everyone see my screen? So to start, a little bit about me. I live in Cincinnati with my husband. There's like an echo, Jay.
Okay.
Uh,
Trying to figure out why this didn't come up in tech check. So there's no other computer or device like showing this in your immediate vicinity?
nope.
Let's ask the audience. Audience, do you have any AV expertise? Do you know I may be hearing an echo from Elise right now? I'm not either.
It's just I'm hearing the echo, so it's hard. Like I'm hearing it a 5-second delay.
Well, let me think here. You're hearing it in your earbuds?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just don't have the earbuds in and use it as a microphone. Hi, Julie. I see your question up top about putting holes in walls. Is that what you're speaking to? Yep. We'll make sure that we get to that.
Is this? It's okay. I can just talk through it.
You sure?
All right. Yeah, if it gets weird, I'll just pause. I don't know.
Okay. Oh, this is fun.
Okay. So like I said, I live in Cincinnati with my husband, and we're currently renovating our house. It's a mid-century modest. I'm sorry, this echo is throwing me off really bad.
I'm not really sure what else to try, to be honest. Other than you don't really need to hear anything. So maybe just kind of use it like this. And we can put your video off so that you're just kind of going through the screens.
Okay.
That may work.
I'll mute myself.
Well, I wouldn't mute yourself because then we can't
No, I mean like
hear you.
the sound.
Cool.
Okay. Just let me know in the chat if anything comes up and I can respond to that. This will be a little bit easier for me, and I'll talk more naturally than hearing an echo every 5 seconds. So like I said, I live in Cincinnati with my husband. We're currently renovating a mid-century modest. That's how it was advertised to us, together on our own, a lot of DIY. Definitely became because I have a background in design that includes both industrial design in schooling, but by day, I'm also a brand strategist and trends analyst. And so I'm not classically trained, you might say, in interior design, but I think that all these experiences have been really formative for curating my eye for design. So industrial design really taught me to think about the beauty of forms and shapes and the consumer experience, and research allowed me to think about this iterative mindset that I think is really important in designing a space. And this trend lens has really allowed me to stay up to date on a broader visual language. So all of this to say, I've been training for this for my whole life. So I'm ready and excited to talk to you guys about it, and really interested in this topic. And I hope that you guys are excited about it too. So we're going to cover a lot in the hour, but there are really 3 main beats that I want to go through. So the first one is, what is a personal style and why does it matter? A few tricks that are going to help you uncover your own style, and tips on how to infuse that into your space. So let's dig in. Before we get into the worksheet, I actually want to talk a little bit about what personal style is and what that means to me. So this can really extend into a number of facets of your life. So that could be, you know, the fashion or art that you're interested in, the design that appeals to you. But today we'll really be focused on how the space that you curate really reflects your personal style. So you may have noticed in the signups for the webinar, the Oscar de la Renta quote, and I think it really fits what we're going to be talking about today. So that fashion is dressing according to what's fashionable, but style is more about being yourself. And so I want to empower you to make your space feel like yours. Besides this external manifestation of your taste, it's really a way to showcase who you are and this fun, creative exercise and outlet. And I have found a lot of fun in being able to use my my space to really express myself. And I hope that that's something I can empower you to do today as well. So I'm really of the opinion that personal style in your space is really important for a number of reasons. I think that it really helps to make even a generic space feel personal. So, you know, not all the time are we renovating a house. A lot of times it's moving into an apartment or maybe a home that is just has more standard kind of style features. And so the way that you can make it feel like yours is to add that personality and add your own style to it. And this will give you ownership and really a sense of pride over the space so that you're more inclined to take care of it over time. I think that that's really important. It's the one place that you really have like this sole ownership and a playground for experimentation, which is really exciting. It becomes your haven and your safe place and a place that you feel comfortable and that you truly want to come home to. I think that that's really important as well. In making your space yours. So I want to share with you, let me see if I can get this to advance. Sorry, guys. So one of the examples that I wanted to share with you about a clear visual style really exists within the Ace Hotel. So these are a couple of different examples of their different locations in different cities. So they have 9 different locations in these really varied cities, and each of those locations takes on the style of the city or the heart of the city, the feel of the city. And so in Seattle, you see something that's a little bit more Pacific Northwest inspired, woodsy, and gives that feel of the city of Seattle. In New Orleans, you know, there's a bit more of a laid back, lush, and party vibe. And in London, it's a bit more modern and simple and sleek, which kind of emulates the look of the neighborhood that they're in, which is this hip neighborhood called Shoreditch. And then in Palm Springs, it's this really relaxed and desert Southwestern vibe. And I think that that kind of goes to show that, you know, a lot of hotels will kind of take this idea of we're going to make it look the same in every single city so that you know that it's ours. But I think it's really interesting and a really great testament to personal style that you can kind of use as an inspiration that they're able to make each of them feel like they belong as a part of the family, but that they each have a distinct visual style to them. So they're ownable in each location and really different from other hotels in the line, but feel like they belong together. So the part that I want to really dig into, the meat of the conversation, is how do you create or curate this clear visual style that feels like you instead of something that's really overly trendy or this maybe flat or impersonal look. So this is where we'll be going through the worksheet if you want to pull that up on your computer. So you can go ahead and pull it up and follow along. So there's really 3 main steps on the first page that we're going to talk about to discovering your style. So articulating what you want out of the space, understanding the broader style landscape, and then uncovering your primary style and the associated cues. So for part 1, that's going to be about feel and function. Part 2 is going to be about, like I said, the style landscape. And then part 3, digging into the dominant style. So I think it's important to think about how you want the space to both function and feel, whether it's one room or this whole house or apartment maybe that you're going to be working on. I think, you know, thinking about what's most important to you in the space, like, does it need to serve a specific function, or does it need to have a certain feeling? You know, how would you describe that Ace Hotel feeling, for instance, if you're stumped on what's the feeling look like? Or how do you want other people to come into your space and describe it? Is it a cozy vibe, or is it a welcoming vibe? So, for example, maybe in the bedroom, you want something spa-like because you want it to be really relaxing, but and you want to wake up feeling refreshed. But you want your entertaining space to be more energizing and really conducive to gathering large groups of friends. So that's just a couple of different ways to think about the feel and function. And I think that you want to start there because that becomes your thesis statement for everything that you're going to build on after that. And then you can always keep coming back to that idea as you build out the space. So articulating this will also help you really curate items as you bring them into the space as well, and make sure that they're laddering up. So once you have the feel of the space, you'll be able to better filter going forward what you like and don't like. So that leads us to our next step, just clicking in. So I have pulled up an example here of one of my personal boards that I've created for this next step, for specifically for the look of a bedroom. So this involves a lot of research, personally my favorite part. So there are really thousands of different home styles out there, and you don't have to feel limited to what's currently on trend or what you might be seeing repeated in the news. So for instance, minimalism has really been a style for a few years, and in response, actually, big maximalist interiors are actually making a comeback to contrast these like simple white interiors that some people are tired of seeing. And so that's trends. Trends will always shift, but beginning to understand what you like and what you really want out of a space will help you see what's beyond what's popular right now and help your style stay more evergreen to what you actually want versus just, kind of cycling through the trends. So you're going to create a mood board, which is an awesome opportunity to put all of that research into action. So whether that's digital or physical, you are going to begin to capture whatever catches your eye. Obviously, Pinterest is a great place to save a lot of this inspiration, but a physical mood board can be really great and even more inspirational because it can kind of get you out of the echo chamber that can often happen on those websites where people are pinning and repinning the same ideas. So I would really advise going to a broad variety of websites and then pinning them back to your Pinterest page versus searching only on Pinterest. So that just will give you a much greater breadth and sense of all the many styles that are out there that you can actually choose from versus feeling like you have to choose from all white or minimalist interiors that might be the hot thing right now, or even as we move into maximalism. So a couple of websites that I would say have really great place to start. And we can share this with you as well later, but a couple of places that I like to look: Dwell, House, Design Milk, Domino, Apartment Therapy also has houses. They're really well known for covering a pretty wide variety of styles and of different types of design. And so you can start to look through here, and they just, they only feature the best a lot of times. So it may not be something that your house is going to look like immediately. I know sometimes I start to feel a little bit down if I look at it for too long, but I think it's more aspirational and it's meant to inspire your space and give you some ideas that maybe you wouldn't have had before. So they're curating a variety of styles and they're featuring these real homes. So if you are clicking around and you find an image that catches your eye, you really don't even need to know why it caught your eye yet. It's really just about what is interesting you and captivating your attention and then saving it. So this is the fun part. And, you kind of get to go into a rabbit hole of interiors and just look at beautiful spaces and learn and curate as you go, even if you don't really notice that you're doing it yet, because you're just pulling all the stuff that's inspiring you. So after you've immersed yourself, if you feel like you're starting to see the same things over and over again, or you have a pretty good sense of what you want to do, you can take a step back and look at what you've collected. And this is really important. You're looking for patterns here. You're looking to see what's coming up over and over again. And I'll just skip back to mine. So I noticed that I was looking at beds that were made out of wood, for instance, and I was seeing black sconces and accents of green, accents of blue. So every room doesn't look exactly the same, but I am starting to see patterns that I can start to put into my space as I understand what I like. I will try to slow down. I'm so sorry about that. Appreciate the feedback. So just making a few notes as you are reflecting on this in that second part of the worksheet will really help you. And so you may have pinned a bunch of different styles, but you'll start to see a couple of things come up over and over again. So you can kind of start to search. Maybe you see blue bedrooms or something that you're really interested in, and you can start to search for blue bedrooms, and then again begin to curate down beyond that. So like I said before, good style is all about a cohesive look. And it's, you really may like lots of styles, but focusing on a primary or a dominant style is going to give you that consistent look that you're really going for to showcase your personal style. So in addition to the dominant style, you can and also should add accents of other styles for interest, but your dominant style is going to help narrow your design choices so that you're not trying to reinvent the wheel every time you shop for home goods, because you just want to make sure that you're not, every time you go out and get something, it's not adding a completely different style to the house. And so there's hundreds of styles out there, like I mentioned, but there are really a few overarching style categories. And these come with their own distinct design choices and have also some color and material and finish choices that are associated with that. And so that's where the quiz comes in. So I've created this quiz to uncover your dominant style. That will be linked throughout. We can send a link to it after the conversation, and also it's linked on the website as well. And so what that will give you at the end is your dominant style that you're really attracted to based on your answers in the quiz. And that will give you a couple of design choices that you can begin to look into. So maybe you get a minimal style or a modern style, and it tells you that, you're looking for clean lines and simpler furniture and stuff like that. So you might be looking for industrial style, and then you'll get potentially hopefully it is a godsend. And then we bring the conversation back and we'll be able to figure out how that might fit into your home, because it's really just about primary style, and you don't want to lean too much into one style on its own, or else it might start to look like a showroom or a catalog for a specific shop. So that'll be linked on the website. So for part 3, you've narrowed it down, you understand your dominant styles, and now you actually want to implement that in your space. So this is where the rubber hits the road, and it can take a little bit of experimentation to get it right. So I just want to liberate all of you and say, don't be afraid of making mistakes and learning what you like or don't like, because it's your space and you can always change it. So if you decide that you don't like something, or you bring something into your home and realize it doesn't really jive with everything else that you've previously brought in, feel free and comfortable to return it or sell it somewhere. Don't keep anything that you don't really feel like goes for this feeling that you're trying to curate. So we'll just talk about a few tips to start infusing that favorite style into your space. And that'll be the second page of the worksheet. So you're going to choose a color palette, choose some main materials that you want to focus on. You need to choose a focal point. And then we'll talk a little bit about adding personality at the end as well. And we'll cover each one of those in depth. So I want to share with you something I just did for a client. We were working on infusing their style into their space, and they had both taken the quiz, and one actually got industrial and one got modern. So it was a mix of how can we take, the things that they are really interested in and these two styles that they both really enjoy, and bring those together. And so I created this mood board for them along with a shopping list, and we had a couple of different calls where we met on how they might infuse their style into their space, to deal and dig into the specifics. And this kind of starts to show you as you pull those all of those ideas together. So we're talking about the function, how you want this space to feel, your dominant style, the color palette. How is that going to start looking when it comes together? So this was the mood board that I sent to them. And we had talked a little bit about a color palette. But we were looking at inspiration and seeing like what did they already have and what are the colors that they wanted to see recurring in their home. So are there a few colors that were repeated over and over again in that inspiration? Is there a certain color that, you know, really evokes that feel that they were looking for? Are there colors that are better suited to deliver that feeling? So we're looking at creating a color palette that involves about 2 main colors. So that's, you know, going to be about 70% of what you'll see. And then you can add in those accent colors and pepper those in across the board. And white and black count. Don't be afraid of either one. It doesn't have to all be wild and crazy colors, but if that is what you want to do, you can bring in, you know, 10 different colors, and then you're just consistently having a more eclectic or energetic style, and that's totally fine too. But if you really want to curate, you want to hone in on a certain look, you can kind of bring it down to just a few colors. The look of bringing in all 10 colors at once is definitely harder to achieve because you just have to be choiceful about, you know, there's not going to be maybe one main focal point because there's going to be a lot of competing things, but it can be a really, really beautiful look when done correctly. So this is the color palette that we kind of ended up with, knowing that they were really looking for gray and white to be those main colors coming out of the modern conversation, and then bringing in some of that industrial look with the black pipes, for instance, bringing in some green with some plants, which I always personally love to do, and that includes fake plants. I'm not opposed to fake plants at all. And then again, bringing in some of the modern and industrial with the warmth of the wood and the warmth of the leather as well.
Hey, Elise, this might be a good
if you wanted, for instance, calm and light and airy space, obviously neutral tones and pastels might work really well for you. But if you wanted a moodier look, maybe even than this, you might look for jewel tones or those darker colors that are going to set a tone when people walk in the room. Because I think that's really what is going to give the sense of this space is, does someone walk in the room and kind of have that feeling wash over them? And you're just looking to, both for you and for your guests, what is that feeling that you want anyone to feel when they walk in the room? So having these colors in mind when you're shopping will really help you automatically deselect things that, you know, you might like in theory, but then when you bring them home, they don't really work. And I know that before I really did this exercise for myself and started to curate and think about what were the styles and things that I wanted to see repeated in my space. I was going out and buying things that maybe in theory or in the store I liked, but they didn't really fit with the overarching theme that I was trying to pull off. So again, the function and the feeling, that thesis statement that you have going in, knowing those reoccurring the trends that you were kind of seeing in the inspiration that you pull, and this color palette will all really help you deselect and make sure that you're focusing in on that style that you personally want to create. So next, we're going to think about materials that you want to be really prominent in this space. So if you're, for instance, like this client drawn to really warm and earthy textures like leather and wood, you can bring those in, or you might want something more tactile like velvet or fur or, you know, a really plush rug, for instance. So what are those main materials that you really want to be featuring? And so this is obviously not going to affect every material that you can have in your home. Some things you actually can't affect, like your floors, you know, whether they're wood or they're carpet. But you can think about how you can work with those textures in addition to the textures that you want to add. So for instance, you could add a rug over carpet, which may seem kind of silly because, you know, the carpet technically is already there. But I think that can really make it feel more plush and more polished, a rug kind of will solidify an area. So if you want to designate, maybe for instance, you have a very large open area and you want to designate a space, a rug will help you do that. So working with what you have and adding in those textures that you really want to feature can be a great addition. And another way to do that is through pillows or throws. Even the furniture in the room, is your couch made out of leather or is it made out of a really soft and like sinkable linen, for instance? Those are the main focal points, which kind of digs into the next thing. And those can really set the tone overall. So before you bring anything in the room, you really want to think about what that focal point is going to be or what you want it to be. So in a bedroom, you are probably going to want to focus on the bed. In a living room, it might be the couch or it might be the fireplace. In the dining room, or in the kitchen, it's probably that gathering table that people are going to come around, whether it's the island or a literal table. And so thinking about carefully about the materials and the colors of those items, because they're going to hold the most visual weight overall. You want to make decisions for other pieces then that will actually complement that focal point. And so, for instance, if you're trying to create a really light and airy room, and you have a really heavy focal point, a really dark piece of furniture, for instance, that's the focal point in the room, that's going to be more difficult to achieve. So you might want to think about swapping it out for something like a couch that's a little bit lighter in color, or having the TV maybe not be the focal point, but instead it's the couch or something. So there are ways to work around that focal point as you try to create the look that you're going for, but keeping that in the back of your mind, I think is really important. And so related, when you're pulling together a room with furniture, especially, definitely do not be afraid to mix old and new, DIY or high end, whatever it might be that you like. Because like I mentioned before, too much of one thing, for instance, too much of your IKEA furniture can often feel like a showroom, or too much vintage can feel like it's a bit cluttered. There are just so many different ways to pull in the design that you might like. And not knocking IKEA at all, because I definitely have some IKEA in my life. But just having too much of one thing, whether that's even, really nice stores, can often just make it feel a little bit like you're still in the store. So to create that personal style, you want to kind of bring it in from lots of different angles. And that's something that I've worked with my clients on. If they're looking for specific stuff, I can kind of go out and do that sifting for them and help them find the things from those different places that will kind of create the cohesive look. And I think that also then encourages you to kind of shop high and low, because IKEA might have some really great pieces, but you might also want every once in a while to splurge on a really, really high-end piece as well. And then you don't feel like you have to have a whole room full of the high-end pieces. You've got this one nice thing that you really spent your money on and thought about and made sure that would fit into the space. So let's see. The most fun part, in my opinion, and the thing that really comes last and kind of pulls the whole room together, really brings the personality in, is adding those final touches with objects that are going to add personality. So whatever you choose, this is the part that is totally up to you. So everything else, if you have, for instance, the bed is going to be the focal point, and you kind of have to have the bed in your bedroom. These are the things that you can just add personality to on your own. So when I was visiting Portland with my brother, actually, we went to a shop that was just full of these kind of decorative items. And so he was looking down at this tiny little mini ceramic origami crane and trying to understand what it was for. And he asked me, what is this? What is this for? And I was like, of course, it's decor. It's, someone might be attracted to that. That might have some meaning to them, or they might just think that it's cute and they want to add that. And that's how you add the personality to your own space. So this is where you get to have fun and play. Everything does not have to be functional when you're adding personality with these items, and it should really be something that you love and want to bring into the space and see every day. So this can be for its beauty or for its sentimentality. It really doesn't matter. You want to bring in items that are going to pull the room together and that mean something to you. So this can be everything related to your hobbies. For instance, if you're really into camping, you might want to have a national parks poster on the wall to kind of allude to that, or personal photos that you had printed. Very short list of decor items includes things like everything, any kind of textile. So pillows really bring in a lot of personality. Throw blankets will also bring in personality. Any kind of textile. You can even hang textiles on your wall if it's a really beautiful piece that you want to kind of frame as art. I've seen that done with scarves sometimes or blankets. Artwork that includes, weavings and paintings and prints and posters of any kind. I think that's one of my favorite ways to add personality to a room is to bring it. I love, love, love to collect artwork from different places that I've been and different artists that I appreciate and just bring those into the home and have such a different collection of artwork from all over and all different kinds of styles. Candles even are they have, interesting vessels a lot of times and can kind of add a nice additional benefit of adding scent. Your books and the books that you like to read and the topics that you like to read on can really say a lot, and it can be a great showpiece, whether that's a coffee table book or something on the shelf. Ceramics or vessels to hold things, bowls and different things like that, vases. Storage. So storage can actually be super beautiful and functional at the same time. Baskets and bins that kind of, again, go back to those materials that you were really focused on. So maybe it's a leather basket or a woven basket or something in the color palette that you're looking for. And also then it provides you some storage. Any antiques, maybe they're family heirlooms or something that you found while shopping. Beautiful dishware can also make a really great item to showcase, and also again is another functional item that something you can actually have out and then it's even easier to use. Hobby equipment is also really interesting. There's so many different ways to showcase that. I was just talking to a client the other day about their love for bikes and how they might display some photos using like a bike wheel or something. Or using old cameras. Maybe you're really into photography and you have some old cameras that you wanted to showcase. Can just be a really great way to kind of allude to those hobbies and things that you're into. Like I mentioned before, personal photos and definitely souvenirs from travel. So in this page that I'm sharing, the little vase that the leaf is in is actually something that I bought while traveling and always makes me think of that trip whenever I see it. So a great place to look for inspiration in this department is the other photo that I included on here with the shelfie hashtag. So a lot of times people will share their shelfies and get, I know it's kind of a silly name, but you can get some inspiration from here on what people are actually showing and how they're kind of arranging their items and how they're actually showing off their personal style. And you can kind of see even in some of these images how they're working within a certain color palette. So the image on the left has purple and then different shades of pink that they're working with, while the image on the right has more earth tones. They're going with orange and the brown of the wood and white and some almost rust colors and the green of the plants in there. And so you can get some inspiration from that as well. So in closing, before we turn it over to the questions, because I definitely want to make sure to answer all of them, I want to say thank you for both being here and also for all of you that stuck through with all the technical difficulties in the beginning. I am so sorry about that. It's, of course, when you're practicing beforehand, you don't have any of the tech issues. And then when we log on, we do. But I'm really thrilled to be doing this professionally and for my business. I'm so excited to have worked with Jay and the Unreal Group with this. And if you'd like to learn more, actually, you can send me an email. I'd love to work together. This is just the beginning, really. And obviously, like we've been going through, there's worksheets and there's a ton of work to be done here. If you really want to dig into it and it's something that really excites you, I would love to work with you. Ways that we can kind of take this to the next level are to really dig deep into that personal style and customize it for your space. So maybe you're seeing a lot of images, but you're not really sure how to bring that back to you. Excuse me. Finding specific pieces that work for you based on your taste and your budget, and sharing interior basics so that you can really improve the flow and function of your space. So this is everything from how do we hang curtains here to how do I create a gallery wall. I can work with you to create a personalized mood board, like the one that I showed you from my earlier client, a shopping list, a floor plan, whatever you need. And also, and another really important thing is combining styles. So if you have a roommate or if you have a partner and you have very different styles, how can we bring those together? So sorry. All right. I think we have some questions. Let me get some water briefly.
Yes, we do have questions. We have lots of good questions. Elise, can you hear me? Cool. Well, we can start from a couple of Julie's questions because she had a lot of great questions and she's here live. So Julie's first question, she says, I've always been terrified to put things up on my walls because once I have holes in the walls, I feel committed. And since I don't know how things are going to work out until I do it and see how it feels, I end up not putting things up. So do you have any thoughts or feedback for Julie on that?
Absolutely. So I had also had this fear when I first started hanging a lot of artwork on my wall. And I really think the first thing that I can say is definitely, I understand the fear, but we have plaster walls. And so it's even more terrifying sometimes because the plaster may crumble and you may have to put joint compound over it and fix the hole if you create too big of a hole. But I think the best advice I can say is to go for it. And don't be afraid because you can always fix it. It is also just a hole in the wall a lot of times. And with a little bit of patching and painting, while it's annoying, it can be fixed. And so there's a couple of tips and tricks that you can actually do to plan before you put anything on the wall. And so working up to the point of actually getting there, if you want to create a gallery wall, for instance, you can take like brown paper or just any type of like scrap paper and cut it to the size of the image that you want to hang on the wall. And you can go ahead and paste up those pieces of the different sizes of artwork and just tape those with like some painter's tape to the wall. So if you're concerned about maybe an arrangement and how are they going to fit together, how are they going to have enough space on the wall, you can work from that. I like to just like print out small images maybe and like hang them together on the wall, even if they're not to scale, just to kind of see how they'll work together if you don't have like Photoshop or something like that. 1 second, sorry. And then another way is to just set it on or like hold it up in front of you, kind of like to see, does it work with the space and the things around it? And a less permanent way would be to do a picture rail where you actually hang the rail, but then you don't have to constantly be swapping out the artwork. You can just easily put it on the picture rail, swap out the pictures pretty frequently because you don't have to constantly be taking them and putting holes in the wall and taking the nail out and hanging something else. And I've also heard of people, if they do hang something in one spot, they just kind of move the artwork to the back and then they can add another piece of artwork that's the same size. So there's a couple different ways to kind of get over that fear. So the picture rail will allow you to swap things out really easily on the picture rail itself without a bunch of holes. The pieces of paper will allow you to plan for the gallery wall. And if you just want to swap out artwork and kind of keep it fresh, you can put one nail on the wall and then kind of put new artwork in there as you get bored with the old piece. Does that answer the question?
Let us know, Julie, if that answers, and we'll go on to your second question here in the meantime. Second question from Julie was, when she's having her whole house repainted, she's planning on painting rooms based on feng shui. Am I saying that correctly? Feng shui? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Which means a lot of different colors, and she says that worries her a bit, and it also is exciting. The thing she's been told is the walls can also be a neutral and use accents in the prescribed colors, except with her feng shui system, certain colors, including neutral colors, are not recommended in each room. However, it may be a long time before she gets window treatments and other things that can bring in color, so she'd like to go ahead with her color selections and wondering what your take is on the whole conundrum.
Okay. Let me make sure that I understand the question correctly. Is that in the question section? I can look at it?
Yes, it is. It is about 4 down. I'm going to click Start Answering on that. So it should be highlighted as well.
Okay. So I think that having different colors in different rooms is not going to be too much of an issue if you have, especially if you have like a really clear delineation between the rooms. I would be worried if it was all one open space and each room or each wall might have a different color. But I think the nice thing is that the whole house doesn't necessarily have to have, if you want a certain vibe in the bedroom, for instance, it doesn't have to be the same in every other room of the house. I think that you could really easily create different spaces for different things. I'm so sorry. I talked a little too much this evening. So you could paint one room red and then the next room would be navy. And that would be fine because each room is really just going to have a different vibe versus the whole house having to have the same vibe. And I think that's okay that you don't care about trends. It's all going to be about, different intentions for each room. So I guess maybe I'm misunderstanding the question.
Julie, if you want to add on to that, feel free to add to the chat, and we'll make sure that we're speaking to what you're trying to get to. In the meantime, let's circle down to Jenny's question. When moving into a new place, how can you get over the desire to buy all the things right away, since a place might feel empty otherwise? Any tips for making a room feel less empty?
I know the feeling, first of all. And it definitely took me a while to kind of see that I would be happier in the end having some downtime where I had maybe some transitional pieces versus buying all the stuff and then having to kind of re-up when I decided that I didn't like it anymore. So I think having the plan will help you, first of all, as you're, wanting to buy stuff and then saying, nope, it's not really, that's just something I want in the meantime. And it'll give you something to kind of look forward to. And then as far as answering how to make it feel less empty, I think that you shouldn't be afraid to have some pieces that are transitional in the meantime. I have lived in a lot of different cities, a lot of different apartments, and that's meant that each time I kind of had to think about, well, how am I going to set this place up so that it feels like me without spending a ton of money to make it, very specific choices that may not work in my next place. But I think that there's some stuff you kind of have to weigh the balance of, is this going to make my life easier or make my life happier for this like year or 6 months or 2 years that I'm going to be here? And how much is it going to cost? So is it like a small IKEA piece that'll really save me, make this space really functional in my current space, and I'll maybe be able to do some kind of DIY to it to improve it for my next space? Or is it something really expensive that's very specific that maybe wouldn't work in my next space? And I think just weighing that balance and making sure that it's something maybe that you could use in the future, or is it going to be a lifesaver right now, is really important. And then having the plan will also help you kind of just feel empowered to save. But also hanging artwork, I would say, is the biggest thing that can kind of help a space feel like it's yours in the meantime. So you don't have to have a ton of furniture or a ton of big pieces, but artwork will kind of help you in the meantime feel more personal.
Great. And so Julie followed up and she said, would like to hear more on what makes a house work with many colors and what turns it into a disaster.
I think it's nuanced. But I would say many colors and many rooms that maybe aren't necessarily complementary colors. So taking a look at the color wheel when you're kind of thinking about these rooms and saying, you're not going to have brown and red and green or something. And maybe that would clash. And then in the next room, you have different colors. So I think there's a very distinct choice to have like every color in every room, which is a very bright and saturated look. And I think that that's a distinct choice. But then you also have to have some, oh, you're saying, yes. So that's a very like distinct choice versus all the different colors and all the different rooms.
I believe that's what she's saying. Yeah.
Okay. So I think it's really, if it's all an open space, and like I said before, if you have like red on one wall and blue on the next wall, I think that that's going to create a problem. But if you have walls that are able to delineate the space, so you have a room that has really bright red and you have a room that has really saturated blue or something next door, I think the walls are going to help kind of contain that look so that it doesn't necessarily feel like they're kind of competing for each other. I think it's just in a more open space, you have to be more careful about that because it's going to be visible from one corner to the other corner, kind of the competing designs. So the walls will kind of help contain the space in each room. But for instance, if it's a dining room to a kitchen, it's just a matter of thinking about how those are going to play off of each other. And so in that instance, when it's one open room, you want to kind of have one cohesive look for that open room. If it's, open from the dining room to the living room to the kitchen, versus if it's a room that's kind of more closed off, it can have a totally different style. Does that answer your question better?
While we're waiting there, we had a question from Andy. Great. Seems like that answered the question. We had a question from Andy of how to light your home properly to feel warming and welcoming. And I could actually use the answer to this too, because the lighting in my apartment is strange.
Yeah. So I think that lamps definitely. Jenny's right. I think that a really, really big piece here is lamps and also light bulbs that you choose. So a lot of times apartment buildings will put in, for instance, like maybe the cheapest thing that they can find, and they will get them on sale because it will be the bright white, versus a soft white and a warm light. So a bright blue light is actually, and they have those like in Lowe's or in Home Depot, they have the little shade that'll show you if you buy a light called soft white over here, it's going to be more warm and yellow. And if you buy a light over here, it's going to be more blue. And there are times when you want a blue light, but very rarely in your home would you want a blue light. You want warmer light and you want softer, like lower to the ground light. So typically in a lot of places, overhead lighting is going to be pretty harsh unless you have like a specialty like lamp or type of lighting fixture that's attached to the ceiling, or you have can lighting or something like that. But you want to make sure even in that you're putting a warm bulb in there. And then in the lamps, you can get lamps that'll have a direct like open bulb, but that's going to be again a little more harsh. So a lamp with a nice shade that will diffuse the light and make it feel a little bit softer is really going to give you that warm look that you're going for. So I will kind of around 6 o'clock, if I'm home, I'll go turn off all the overhead lights and turn on all the lamps, because it just gives you kind of that like coming down for the evening look. And if you have a bright enough light, or like a big enough lamp, you'll still have plenty of lighting around the room. So you're not like tripping over things or anything. But it is giving you that softer evening light. And I really recommend that for the bedroom as well, having a lamp next to your bedside, because that's going to help you again to create that more comfortable space as you're kind of coming down and want to go to sleep and come down from the day.
Okay, we have one more question here, unless anybody has anything to add. So thanks again, guys, for joining us tonight. Really appreciate you guys being here. If you do have more questions, feel free to add them. We've got about 5 minutes here, so not a ton of time. But this is from Rosemary, and she says, designing my living space is terrifying. I have no clue where to start with my cabinet or my cabin feel apartment. Brown carpet and wooden wall panels upstairs and downstairs. I have a lot of inspiration, but feel lost when it comes to getting started. Any tips to creating a structured plan to designing a living space that inspires her rather than bores her? I feel like you answered that a lot in the presentation, but if there's anything you want to add there, feel free.
Yeah. So I think that it's all about if you want to work with this, and I think it could be really cool. Surprisingly, in a lot of places, I think we kind of think of maybe wood paneling is a little bit older, but it's really, really coming back. So you could work with this style and kind of make a new version of it for you, designed around what you really want. And I'm forgetting the other detail that you mentioned. Brown carpet. Okay. So it depends on if you like the look and you want to go for more of a cabin feel, because you could always really lean into that. Or you could go completely away from that and create a bit more of a light and airy look on top of that. Like I was saying before, you could maybe layer a rug that's much brighter or lighter on top of the carpet to kind of lighten the room up, as it has the wood paneling and the carpet. So I think it's really about, do you want to lean into that look and, really go with the earth tones and kind of more the Pacific Northwestern vibe maybe? Or do you want to lighten it up and kind of add these touches with your larger furniture and your rugs and those pieces that are going to brighten it up in the space and kind of take it a little bit different direction and play instead of playing off of it.
Great. And we just got one more question from Garrett, which you probably saw in the chat. He says, I work remotely at a co-working space for about half of his week. The space is super young and the owner is very open to vibing it up. Any tips on making an office space feel homey, or is that a bad idea? At the moment, it's pretty plain and beige.
Hashtag beige. It's funny, when we moved in, I joked that our house theme was beige on beige, because it was kind of from the 50s and they didn't really update a lot of things. So we were working with a beige on beige color scheme. Since then, we have updated it. And I actually have a kind of strange in 2018, since the year has changed, to say that I have my own office, but everyone has their own offices at work. And so each person kind of gets to update their space and make it feel however they want in their little nook, in their little room. And so each time that I've kind of moved offices, I've made sure to make it mine. And so I don't think that it's a bad idea to make it more homey. I think that bringing in, again, artwork and without, like cluttering up the space, you can add a couple of pieces of artwork, maybe add like a stapler that's more fun to your desk or whatever it is. And then I think also furniture can help with that. So like I brought in a chair from home actually and added like a cover to that. So it just felt a little bit warmer. And if I want to move away from my, kind of standard desk chair, I can actually sit in that and sit like I'm more at home, a little bit more relaxed. So I've brought in a lot of artwork. I've brought in some plants, which I can't say enough good things about. Real or fake, I really think they're great. And I've brought in some of my own furniture. So hopefully that answers your question. But yeah, maybe you're right. bringing in maybe a whole nother idea for a webinar there.
Cool. That's all the questions we had, and we're running out of time. So Elise, if people want to talk further about this, obviously I'm going to send out a recap email with a bunch of links to the quiz and to the website, and I have Elise copied on that. But Elise, would you recommend anything else for people getting a hold of you?
My email? So that's going to be Elise, ELYSE at creative.com. You can also go to the website. You can fill out the contact form there. You can see some of the plans that I've started to put together if you want to work with me. But they're also available as a la carte options. So if you really like something you see in one of them and just want to work with me on that, that's totally fine too. But yeah, that'd be the easiest way. Contact form or email.
Cool. I will send out that recap with those links and with Elise copied on that email. So thank you guys for taking the time this evening. Hopefully that this was informative and helpful to you, but would really recommend reaching out to Elise if you have further questions, because she's really great to work with, very easy to talk to, and she really knows her stuff. So follow up with her if you want to take it further. Otherwise, I guess we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks all.